Hello everyone, good morning, welcome to Monza. It's round one of our Ferrari Challenge for 2025. It's early morning, just ahead of 9 a.m. local time here at the Temple of Speed, where qualifying will get underway under the blue sky that greets us here in the Milan region this morning. Indeed, welcome to Monza that kicks off our 2025 season, the 33rd year of this Ferrari Challenge. From here we head to Misano, then it's Hockenheim, Brno in the Czech Republic, Valencia and Barcelona, two Spanish rounds together, then Spa-Francorchamps and the finale Mondiali in Mugello. Towards the end of October, that's our calendar for 2025 with the view of the Alps behind us. We can reveal just what this Temple of Speed is like. It was founded back in 1922. The circuit as it is today, 5.79 kilometers, 12 turns, 4 left, 8 right-handers, and it's called the Temple of Speed for very good reason. An extraordinary track, steeped in history and heritage. Weather conditions that greet us this morning, air temperature merely 9 degrees at the moment, track temperature 13 degrees. No wind really to speak of. So the conditions dry out there on track, and it's going to be our Coppa Shell AM drivers that will take to the track first of all for their 30-minute qualifying session, and to see who can set the best time and give them the most advantageous grid position possible. Boris Gideon did a good job yesterday and did a good job in the race as well, and he will be hoping to make it double bubble this weekend and have a good one today as well. He comes from Outer House, Ulrich. Alongside me is Nico Spalek. Good morning.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, everybody. A very early morning because of the daylight savings time kicking in. It actually feels like an hour earlier. And that's why temperatures are very, very low at this hour. They will increase steadily over the next few hours as we go through the session of qualifying. So we start with Coppa Shell AM, and then we will go through Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli AM, and Coppa Shell before we go racing in the afternoon. 2 minutes away from the session getting underway, the Shibata car and the driver inside the car getting some moral support.
We'll, of course, be hoping to do one better in the race today. He finished P4 yesterday, so just off the podium. Be hoping to elevate himself at least onto the podium today. Now, sitting at the head of the queue before qualifying gets underway is the 175 car of the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver, Sven Schirmer, who looked very, very quick yesterday, did Sven. Very impressed with his driving. Regrettably, penalties meant that he only finished the race P7. This is Germana Toniella. Welcome, return to Germana Toniella to racing. Last year, her husband Zeus Skrimpias, who was such a resounding success in this category, the original plan was for Zeus and her to share the car last year, but Zeus was so impressive that he did the whole season, won the championship, has moved up to another category, and the rest is history. But Germana is back as well this year, so both members of that family are racing, albeit in different categories. This is Pino Frascaro, driver of the number 140 car with Rosso Corsa. Pino was racing in the 488 Challenge last year, as we go back to the Germana Toniella car. Car number 168, and using the colours of Zeus from last year. Zeus adopting a different colour scheme on his 296 Challenge for this year. So it's all calm before the storm, 20 seconds before the light goes green at the end of the pit lane, and we get some action underway as we look at the 111 car of Hassan Dabusi. Finished P9 in the race yesterday. There is Hassan, ready to get out there for Formula Racing. Based in the Middle East and travels to Europe for every round, and does a very good job, does Hassan Dabusi, and right on time the pit lane becomes open, the green light comes on. Let's get qualifying underway.
Yeah, Hassan Dabusi had an off in qualifying yesterday, therefore had to start from the very back of the pack and made some good progress in the race. Yesterday's qualifying, after there had been some rain overnight, the track was a little bit wet. No such strife this morning, as the track is definitely dry. And that means a little bit of a different set of conditions for the drivers. However, they have tested here this week and it's been all dry except for yesterday morning. So these are conditions that the drivers are definitely more used to. And we hope for a clean, uninterrupted qualifying session, but with the gravel beds and everything around the track, it's something that you can never take for granted, and that will be something that the drivers will have to take into account in their strategy. Talking a bit about strategy, usually what we get on the Sunday in qualifying is that the drivers come out, use yesterday's rubber to install, get the car, the brakes up to temperature, get themselves into a rhythm, and then change to a new set of Pirelli P0s to go about the time hunt in earnest. But we will find out how this is going to shape up. 20 cars, 20 drivers entered into this session, and roughly half of them already out on the grid track.
Yes, let's see how they do. You're absolutely right to call strategy. Generally speaking, that is what happens. Use a set of rubber from yesterday just to get everything in order, and then come in and put a new set of boots on, as it were, to go out and do the real deal in terms of quali. So we're watching the Sven Schirmer car, Penske Sportwagen Hamburg. Every driver in the Ferrari Challenge is linked to a dealer and a team. And Sven Schirmer then, who, as I say, was really impressive in terms of pace yesterday, and were it not for penalties, would have finished certainly further and higher up the order. He'll be wanting to right the wrongs of yesterday and make sure that he can be at least on the podium, if not a race winner today. And you certainly wouldn't bet against it. Now, it was really interesting because you look at some of the drivers that raced in the 488 Challenge last year, which is precisely what Sven Schirmer did. So you kind of got no knowledge of what they're going to do in the 296 car. And I've been really, really impressed with both Sven Schirmer and Pino Frascaro, who came into the 296 Challenge from the 488s and just taken to it very well indeed. Both of them showing extraordinary pace yesterday, and quite clearly feeling very, very comfortable and confident in these cars. In fairness, every driver tells me the cars are brilliant, utterly brilliant. This 296 Challenge car is a truly magnificent racing car, and every driver feels very, very much at home. They're very different to the 488, so you have to adopt a slightly different style. One of the biggest factors is the fact that these cars employ brake-by-wire, which gives a completely different feel, and it's something that you have to get used to. Most drivers have. Some have found that trajectory of learning more difficult. That's fair to say. But I would suggest, you know, the likes of Sven Schirmer, Fabrizio Fontana, Pino Frascaro, those drivers that have, Quinn Wiedlis back, another one perhaps, those drivers that have migrated from running in the previous car last year have, really found their feet in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Fabrizio Fontana, who obviously was the champion in the 488, went not to Shell but to Shell, and I think showed that categorization was correct by going on to win his first race in the 296 Challenge yesterday afternoon. So yeah, lots of migration among the different categories. Coppa Shell last year, Jan Sandman, Zoe Scrimpi, as you mentioned, Eric Chung, all of those have gone from Shell to Shell. So the categories have been remixed a little bit, and I think yesterday's results show that that was a good strategy, and the drivers are where they're supposed to race with the drivers in their category. As Sven Schirmer shows that he's not forgotten how to pedal the car around the Monza circuit. Times, as we said, not necessarily indicative, just under 2 minutes. We expect those to come down by, dare I say, 14, 12 seconds. So yeah, we will see over the next 25 minutes and a half.
Sven visibly slowed down heading towards the curve of Parabolica on the straight behind the paddock. He was quite clearly setting himself up for this lap being an important one. So you're quite right to not judge too much import on that previous lap, because Sven definitely slowed and was setting himself up to go for a lap this time around. Here comes Pino Frascaro, the Rosso Corsa racer, and he sets a time of 1:57.176. Alwa Mer. Oh, there is Mrs. Pino on the pit wall. We saw them at breakfast this morning in the hotel, and this is Guy Favet, or Guy 4. And another driver very, very confident in this car. Look at this, blue sector 1, purple sector 2. He's on something of a mission as well. You never bet against him, of course. And when we go to Spa-Francorchamps a little bit later in the year, it will be effectively a home race for him. There'll be lots of guests and friends and family and such like there to support. Really enjoying his racing. Had a nice conversation with him, I think it was on Thursday. And he's just, really, really enjoying his time in the Ferrari Challenge, which is great. The Scuderia FMA driver who goes fastest and with a 1:54.340, some 2.7 seconds quicker than anybody else. But Sven Schirmer, who it's not very often I say on the air anything that's correct, but I saw him slow on the back straight before the Parabolica. Thought to myself, yeah, he's setting himself up for a lap this time around. Well, by Jiminy, he's just done that, a 1:49.277. So very unusually, I was accurate.
Yeah, 10 seconds quicker than the last time around, and keep it up with the correct stuff.
I'll try.
I'll
try.
That's such a rare occasion.
30 years trying to do it and failed miserably.
Shitaro Katsu we just had in shot, who finished on the podium yesterday. Pino Frascaro, who was very quick, had a penalty yesterday, and that dropped him down the order. But I think he will take comfort in the fact that the pace in the car and in the driver was good, and talking about good pace. Reinforced in this instance, takes it all the way up into the 1:48 or down, however you want to look at times. Definitely a good time for him, and Alois Meyer, third for the moment, driving the familiar livery of the Gohm Engstler team.
And Luca Engstler himself here, I was going to say motivating pilots and drivers, as Luca does. He's certainly no slug when it comes to motor racing himself.
May have done a lap or two at race speed, yeah, and currently does that. Look at that, exactly
Very
the same
rare
time.
You see that, isn't it? Very rare. All the zeros.
Yeah. And that means Alois Meyer is on a good trajectory, and again, we are still in the early part of this qualifying session, and strategy will play a part, but it's always good to have a banker, and being minus 1,000 is always better to be plus 1,000.
But if they're doing this time on yesterday's tyres, that's impressive.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Especially because it's still very, very cold, as we saw in the weather data. And we have a look, where does Alois slot in? And he slots into P1, first final sector, half a second quicker than the reference time from Pino Frascaro, which, I mean, the track is always going to evolve. There is sun, it's going to be warmer, the tire's going to come up to temperature, and their peak operational window. Haven't said that this season, so it's a first for this year. As Germano Toniella gets into the Ascari chicane. We had a few drivers yesterday, especially in the Shell Am in qualifying, getting it wrong into the Ascari and getting beached there, which brought out 2 red flags, and that truncated the session. We hope we get no such strife today, and we will have an uninterrupted session for our chaos, but obviously more for the drivers who set up their qualifying strategy based on being able to utilize the entire time. Because it's not only you have to abandon the lap that you're on, but with the red flag you have to come in, you have to reinstall, and you have to put the tires to another heat cycle, which you don't necessarily want to do more than is necessary. There is some emotion in the pit lane. And there is a new set of Pirelli P0s, I would venture to guess.
I think you're right. And there is Sven Schirmer, third fastest at the moment.
Just 4 1/1000ths off the pace through 2 sectors. But
coming in this time.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
And there you can see it's not about the time that he could have set here. It's more about the overall strategy in the session. He bails the lap and rather goes into the pit lane and prepares for his next time around. There is Germano Toniella doing likewise. That means right now the track is fairly calm, with most of the drivers in the pit lane or on their out laps. And it will become very, very busy in a couple of minutes.
You could see there as we were watching Germana Toniella, hydraulic jacks installed inside the car. The car is lifted up, the wheel guns go to work. Of course, there's only one nut that stabilizes the wheel on the hub of the car for speed purposes and secure purposes. And we're watching Guy Favet, who is currently sitting P5 in qualifying table, but 12 or so cars in the pit lane at the moment, choosing to use the final 2/3, if you will, of the qualifying session to get about it, probably with new Pirellis on. So Pino Frescaro on his way out, so too is Shibata, and also Boris Gideon, who of course was victorious yesterday. Will he be able to do the same today? Mere time will tell. Victorious in both qualifying and in the race. Guy staying out there for the moment. Fourth fastest now. And there, the 119 car. That's really spooky, because I was only thinking to myself, we've not seen much of Louis Perusquia out there, but right now we are one of the more distinctive looking 296 Challenge cars, that's for sure. And Louis, I'm tempted to say, ever present in the Ferrari Challenge, whether here or in North America, and really enjoying his racing. He's a really lovely gentleman who I've spent some time with in various airport lounges around the world, and jolly good company, jolly good company. Andrea there on the pit wall that you could see, as where is Louis at the moment? Ranking P7 in qualifying thus far. Still more time to come, of course, before the end of this session. We've not even reached halfway yet. Drivers take quite some pride in how they wrap their cars, and by wrap I don't mean low prices, or not that kind of wrapping. I mean the colours and the paint schemes. Wrap with a W.
And we have a red flag, and that was not because of
That's because of me.
punts being thrown. Sven Schirmer has shown a stop on the track, and we have not seen any further indication. But in combination with the red flag, as we have another look at the Louis Perusquia car going through the first chicane, which is ever so tight. We will for sure find out what the reason for the stoppage is, and we hope for Sven Schirmer that there's not been any major incident, or ideally it won't be him involved at all, but there must be a reason, as we see Paolo Scudieri bringing it into the pit lane as he's supposed to do. And we will resume at some point with 17 minutes 11 seconds remaining on the clock. And I think it's actually, if there is ever a good point in a quali session to have a red flag, and this may be it, because most of the drivers had just come out, they had not fully installed the cars and the tires, so I think most of them will feel like, okay, we've done a lap, but not at race pace,
Reset.
and we can just reset, but we'll see.
There is Hassan Debussy making his way back to the pit lane as well. Now, you had picked up on the fact that Sven Schirmer was shown as stopped, but that indication has gone away now, so...
I mean, maybe there was a car that was beached somewhere and then got it going again, and therefore...
There is the Sven Schirmer car. Is there any telltale sign? I mean, there's no gravel coming off the back of the car, is there?
No. So... but, race control is sometimes in an unenviable position, because they don't want the seconds to tick away when there is a car which is potentially beached or stranded. And sometimes we've seen that. Oh, the car gets going again when you didn't think it would.
Yeah, well, that is the trouble, and it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. You kind of, the session's going to restart at 9:17, which is a couple of minutes from now. So. It's not going to be a long time, and therefore, whatever recovery, it's not taken long. We've seen quite some images during our qualifying thus far. Let's bring you some of those in super slow-mo for you to enjoy right now. Session resuming in 2 minutes. Stand by then, here's your 10-second warning before we get the session back green again. Let's see if we are absolutely on time. You bet we are. The klaxon goes. The pit lane gets reopened. And Alvaro Ramos is the first of those out. Followed rapidly by Lisa Clark, one of the fastest ladies I know. Great Ferrari Challenge racer all around the world. It was a hit song from Lisa Stansfield a few years ago, I can remember. Lisa having raced in North America, in Europe, also in the Middle East as well. Does a lot of race driving and is a very, very good racing driver. There's Boris Gideon then, and his driver coach Kevin. And they've been a formidable combination thus far this year. I mean, it is only the first event, to be fair, but yesterday did the double in qualifying and in the race as well. So maximised their points haul, and they'll try and add to that maximum haul with the same level of success today, I would suggest. So all of a sudden now, Nico, appreciate the reset, and if ever there's a good time to have a reset, it's kind of halfway through the session, which is where we are and where we were. It becomes a short, sharp quali now for these drivers, really. They've got, as near as makes no difference, 15.5 minutes to set a time to give us a grid for this afternoon's race.
Absolutely. Lisa Clark, you mentioned her. She's the only one who hasn't set a time of those who are showing on our timing screen, but there are quite a few like Henry Kamstrup and Hassan Debussy or Boris Gideon who have set times in theory, but not meaningful ones, with 157s or 158s, which is like 8-9 seconds off the pace. So consider those theoretical times almost that they won't want to have determining their grid positions. So the pressure is on those, if there is such a thing as pressure, if you are allowed to race in the Ferrari Challenge, and yes, there is, because you want to do as well as you possibly can, and Carlos Gudieri is one of those who's already picked up the pace, and he will be the first one to complete his outlap. The O in the graphics disappears, meaning he is now on a lap that is, at least in theory, able to set a time for his grid position, and he approaches the first chicane. I don't think he's already fully at race speed, but we will see what the second time say as all the drivers are now out on the grid, traffic becoming a topic.
And it will. It was a very topic that I wanted to bring up, really, because the track length here at Monza, 5.79 kilometers. We're going to have 16 cars out there on track for this qualifying session. You would think that across 5.79 kilometers, 16 cars, traffic isn't going to be a problem. But laws say, and luck says, that when you're trying to set your fastest lap, you're going to come across someone who is perhaps installing themselves for a lap. And we've said this more times than we've probably had hot dinners. You can't, if you're on a slower lap and you're preparing to go for a hot lap, even though you may well be aware of someone behind much, much quicker, you'll do everything you can to not impede their progress, but you can't make your car vanish into thin air, and it does impact that driver who's trying to set his fastest time.
Yeah, no question, and especially, you know, you may not be on a flying lap, but you are installing, you are preparing, and especially when you come towards the parabolica, there is the point where you just have to pick up the speed, get everything of in your car, the brakes, the tires, as we have a look at Stefano Guy coaching up.
And telling Paolo, go, go, go.
Not that Paolo needs that telling.
No,
but
he doesn't.
Sometimes as a coach you have to say the obvious, I guess.
There is Pino Frascaro right now. Purple sector 1, so he's on something of a mission. He already sits second fastest. Now, he's done quite some laps in the first part of qualifying. Back out now, if you like, in the second part of qualifying. Let's see what Pino can do here. Sector 2 is purple, so he is going quicker than anyone on the laps so far. You can see how the curbs have been lowered now across that Ascari chicane, and he was able to use that to full effect, and he's absolutely full chat flat now heading towards the Parabolica, with Mrs. Pino absorbing the data on the screens on the pit wall as Pino Frascaro rounds the Parabolica, the turn that seems to never end, and heads towards breaking the timing beam. Sven Schirmer going quickly as well, and here comes Pino Frascaro, who doesn't improve, stays P2. Sven Schirmer is on an improvement trajectory from his P3 place. Let's see if it comes to fruition. Indeed it does, by some 4 3/4 tenths. He goes P1, Nico. I don't think it's without change before the end of the session, though.
No, probably not, but a banker is good. Henrik Kamstrup was just still last on our timing screen. I think he, based on his intermediate times, will make quite a leap, as Boris Gideon has put it on to P2, having just finished his lap. And indeed, Henrik Kamstrup vaults 15 drivers all the way from P16 to, well, 40 drivers all the way up into P2, and Paolo Scudieri is now completed lap. Now times are tumbling down, and as we kind of expected and predicted, with a new set of tires now warmed up and the drivers going through their installation process, now is the time when the first wave of very, very quick times will come.
You're right. Sven Schirmer, Henrik Kamstrup, Paolo Scudieri, Boris Gideon. They are the top 4 at the moment as we pick up on Boris the Autohaus Ulrich driver. Sector 1, personal best then, so again on an improvement trajectory. And over the next 10 3/4 minutes, we are expecting to see improvements probably all the way to the checkered flag. The level of improvement probably will diminish, and it will go from being measured in tenths to 100ths and maybe even 1,000ths, but 7 tenths up at the moment is Boris Gideon. He'll be buoyed by the confidence of the success he had both in qualifying and in the race yesterday. He feels at one with the car. He feels at one with the circuit. And he's super smooth. And the new lowered curbs here at the Monza circuit playing to the strengths of Boris then, who is able just to see when they take slightly different lines around the Parabolica. As he heads to break the timing beam now, he goes from P4 to P1 by, Nico, quite a sizable margin, very nearly 6 tenths ahead of Sven Schirmer. Here comes Henrik Kamstrup, also improving. P3 at the moment for Henrik for Formula Racing. That becomes P2 as he moves up a further place.
Absolutely, and as you said, the gaps are going to diminish, and it's only 6 100ths between the two. So really, really tight now at the very, very front with Henrik Kamstrup in P2 and more drivers like Sven Schirmer. I was just about to mention his name, and thanks guys for bringing him not only in audio but also in video as he rounds Lesmo 2. Coming back towards the infield, if you will. There's Lesmo 2, and now this little kink, and then it's all the way down full throttle to Ascari. He with a very good first sector, and we will know in maybe 5 or 6 seconds what the second sector he was able to deliver. Personal best, not an overall best, but on an improvement trajectory, as are quite a few of our other drivers. We are watching the screen, we're watching the times, we are watching the pit purge, and the teams giving advice, giving motivation. Even if they could, they would give a cup of coffee to our drivers in the cockpit. That has to wait until the end of the session, maybe 10 minutes from now. Well, maybe I'm deducing from myself, but yeah, I'd have a little bit of espresso in my drinking system.
You think it would help?
No. Sven Schirmer just off the pace again.
He improved through the final sector though, because it's down to, you know, the margin is, you're right to mention, the margin's so tight between them all. But look at that, Boris Gideon improving still further.
Yeah.
So the best times are 1:46.469 at the moment. The top 3 drivers are split by just 5 tenths, Nico. That's an extraordinary margin between them all. This is what I was saying about, I was really impressed with his driving yesterday. Look at this, pinpoint accurate, Boris Gideon. Super smooth, just getting the most out of the car, the most out of the track, and most out of himself as well. So really, really polished performance.
Very, very good. Alexei Komarov in the meantime, he is now at the bottom of our times, but showing purple after sector 2, so he on a very much of an improvement trajectory, heading towards the timing line, or for the moment heading towards Parabolica. There we pick him up. Very well done, guys. P16 for the moment, but as you can see from the color coding on the graphics, that is bound to change potentially.
Alexei, engineered by the Scuderia Prague team, and as he heads to break the timing beam now, he vaults a huge number of places, Nico, into P2. Well spotted, friend. Alexei Komarov, well done.
Very impressive lap from Alexei. And even more impressive, Boris Gideon. He was so quick yesterday and actually got his final attempt at a quick lap red flagged, maybe 120 meters from the finish line. It didn't really matter because he had pole position anyway, but he would have taken another half second or so off his pole time. And so such was his dominance in qualifying, and he's looking to repeat that.
He's constantly moving the marker and the target for every other driver by some margin as well. There's now 1.18 seconds between P1 and P2 as Boris Gideon shaves yet more time off his previous best. When does Boris say, right, enough's enough, tyre conservation, because the tyres that you qualify on are the tyres that you're going to race on. It's quite cold, track surface temperature is quite cold, therefore probably he's not taken as much out of the tyres as he would if the temperature was a bit hotter, but even so, it's going to be warmer this afternoon when they race. You need tyre longevity. Yeah,
100%, and I think the team will advise him that, you know, we're not actually sure if someone will overtake you, and, you know, probably at this stage, the trade-off is better to accept that maybe you will be relegated to P2, but rather preserve the tyres
for the race.
But that's why we have the teams and we talk about it and they make the decisions.
We just saw another one of the driver coaches on the pit wall, Daniel Mancinelli. Daniel, again, another very, very successful driver, as most of these driver coaches tend to be. We watched Sven Schirmer then, who's personally improving across the sectors. Sven Schirmer at the moment is P3. Henrik Hamstrup has gone P2 right now, and all of a sudden, look how much difference there is, because Alexei Komarov, who momentarily was right up there, now finds himself back down the order a bit to P12. So here comes Sven Schirmer. I don't think this is going to change much. It changed one place, but he's still 6.5 tenths off of finding the optimum time he needs to threaten and challenge Boris Gideon.
Yeah, who's currently at least not challenging through this lap, and we will monitor whether he will come into the pit lane. Lisa Clark still has work to do. P13 will be quite satisfactory to her. I think she will push, and pushing is what she does. First sector was good. We will see what the second sector does. I don't think quite what she would like.
No, and Jeff Westphal, who is Lisa's driver coach. I know Jeff is here this weekend, and Jeff, a very, very talented driver and a very talented coach as well. The relationship he has with Lisa is such that, you know, he is really able to motivate her and brought such racing prowess. And Lisa is just easing this lap to go for it next one. She lets some cars go by to enable her to have clear tarmac ahead, and she'll start giving it 100% right now to set herself up for the next lap. So Lisa Clark currently sitting P13. Do expect that to change as she goes for it right now.
Sven Schirmer with a very, very good first sector, blisteringly quick. The second really was nothing by his standards. Lost almost 2 seconds in the second sector, which means that this attempt at unseating Boris Gideon for pole is not going to work. Maybe he will have another one. Certainly the first sector was very, very quick. One thing we didn't have to talk about much in this session is track limits, because we only had a total of 3 across all the drivers, so very few laps disallowed because of track limit excursions and taking an advantage. Good to see the drivers being able to keep it within the white lines and making every attempt count. And yes, when really, really eased up also through the final sector.
It was the middle sector he nosed up, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think really after the first one he didn't go for it, but maybe he just picked up enough speed coming out of Parabolica to have one more attempt, or possibly two. Paolo Scudieri, a good 4th position. Not that he will be satisfied with anything else, but maybe a front row start.
Sure.
But we've got 2.5 minutes plus whatever lap you are on that will still count.
So Paolo Scudieri stays P4 for the moment. Shintaro Akatsu is P5. And we get here in replay the 101 car of Paolo Scudieri. Again, pinch point accurate through that chicane, just avoiding the sausage curbs that still exist there, which if you launch your car over that, it slows you down, that's for sure. Meantime, we pick up on this right now. Still just under 2 minutes remaining of this qualifying session. And Alexei Komarov, who has improved to P7. And bear in mind, he was provisionally on the front row a little while ago. I don't think this is going to trouble his current P7. Middle sector didn't work for him. To be fair, he picked it up in the final sector and moves up 2 places to P5. Good showing from Alexei Komarov that we're seeing here. Meantime, here is Henrik Kamstrup. It's P3 at the moment. Again, middle sector not working for him. So now, of course, it's always a compromise across the sectors in terms of, you know, how you set the car up. Dare I say it that, you know, the middle sector, you know, contains 1, 2, 3, 4 turns. Don't know. There's Henrik. Blisteringly quick yesterday in the race. And heading to break the timing beam now. And he does improve 1 place. So what he loses in the middle sector, he regains a little bit in the final sector. So it is Gideon from Kamstrup from Schirmer, which is kind of where you would I don't know, based on the form of yesterday, none of those are surprising us. Here comes Guy Favre, personal best through sector 1. He is currently sitting P8, Nico.
Indeed, and the second sector was okay-ish by his standards. He still got a chance to improve. His current time puts him 1.6 seconds off the pace, so with around half of that through 2 sectors. He still has a chance to move up a few positions as a pole setup, provisional, but very likely also at the end. Boris Gideon has just come into pit lane, and we see Friedrich Müller improving, we see Akatsu improving all the way up to P4. Can Guy 4 follow suit and get up from P9?
No.
No.
Is the answer to that. Long and the short of it. Here comes Sven Schirmer. Now this is going to be his last lap, Nico. Sector 1 didn't work for him. Sector 2 was a bit better. Can he find enough in Sector 3 to move himself up from P3? I'm not sure.
You would have to have a very good final sector to get on the front row, but that's Henrik Kamstrup's time is within reach potentially. We will see when he hits the timing line, and yes, he edges him by about 10th or so. Henrik Kamstrup is still out there, but not looking like he's able to respond. Is there anybody else? Paolo Scudieri,
well done, Boris.
Brilliant second sector, overall best, so maybe he still has found a final lunge at this. He's currently running in P9, or provisionally placed in P9, so maybe he can still move up the order as we have a look at the pole setting car. And no, Paolo Scudieri did improve in terms of time, but not in terms of position. So I rather think, looking at the times, that
we're done.
We're effectively done, barring a miracle final sector from anybody. We think that we have our results pretty much set in stone, or at least graphics.
You're right. Boris Gideon doing it all over again. Pole position means, of course, the best possible grid place. Not only that, bonus point as well for setting pole position. Sven Schirmer P2, Henrik Kamstrup P3. We will bring you the confirmed classification from Race Control as officially communicated in just a few moments. We'll do that both in vision and in graph and in voice as we bring the graphics to you. But yes, our qualifying is done and dusted, and this car driver combo, or this car driver and coach combo, have done it again and put it P1. Replay then of the car that will feature right at the head of the grid when it comes to the Coppa Shell AM race this afternoon. Following this session, we have Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM qualifying to come. But here, confirmation of that classification. Boris Gideon, then P1, Sven Schirmer P2, Henrik Hamstrup P3. Then it was Shintaro Akatsu, Norikatsu Shibata, Alwan Mer, Pino Frescaro, Alexei Komarov taking P8. Ahead of Paolo Scudieri, Hassan Debussy. Well done, Hassan. Guy Favre, Friedrich Muller, Alvaro Ramos, Lisa Clark, Germana Toniella, with Louis Periscure, P16. Qualifying done and dusted then for our Coppa Shell AM drivers. There is Lisa Clark inside the Pellin garage. And Lisa Clark then qualifying in P14. She's a racer though. We'll see what she can do in the race this afternoon. And Alexei Komarov, engineered by the Scuderia Prague team. His crash helmet being removed right now. And Sven Schirmer just discussing how the car was handling out there on track yesterday. I kind of get the impression that, today rather, I get the impression that with the wiggle of his bottom there, he was indicating that the back end sometimes was getting away from him, maybe. It's my interpretation of the body language. Perhaps it was accurate. More likely it wasn't. But that's it for our Coppa Shell AM qualifying. Thank you for watching that. We'll be back shortly with Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM. Hello everyone, welcome to qualifying for our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli drivers. And this qualifying session will set the grid for race 2 to come this afternoon. 9 drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen. What's that all about, Dave? Well, it indicates that they're Trofeo Pirelli drivers. The white strip indicates they're Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers. Where will they be qualifying? Well, of course, here at the Temple of Speed, the 5.793 kilometre circuit in the Royal Villa of Monza Park. Extraordinary place. 12 turns, 4 left, 8 right. It is the Temple of Speed. Around about 20 kilometres from central Milan, within sight of the Alps that you can see. 20 degrees the track temperature. The air temperature has doubled in the space of an hour. It's now up to 14 degrees, so it is getting warmer. So conditions, I would suggest, for our 9 Trofeo Pirelli drivers will be optimised. It looks to me like it's Dylan Medler that's going to be the first in the queue to get out there. The number 1 car is driven by Yassin Ferrati, driving for the Emil Frey racing team. And Yassin, a very, very talented young driver. Dylan Medler, a very, very talented young driver. In fact, Dylan Medler, 2024 Trofeo Pirelli champion in North America, and there he is inside the car, and he's driving for the Collection Miami and choosing to race both in North America and here in Europe as well, and he's a very welcome addition, as he was indeed last year. So we also have the likes of Quinn Wiedlisbach and Björn Grossman. Good to see Björn Grossman returning to the Ferrari Challenge. Felix Hersiger, Luigi Coluccio, Gilles Renman, who certainly hit the ground running in the Ferrari Challenge yesterday, and Vincenzo Scarpetta. I think I've been through everybody, perhaps with the exception of Max Mugelli, long-standing campaigner in the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. So let's get going then. 20 minutes on the clock, short, sharp qualifying session. We expect the drivers to go out on a set of rubber from yesterday to, if you like, install the car. Then they'll come in, put some new rubber on, and go out to set their qualifying lap. There indeed is Max Mugelli, driving for the CDP Eureka competition team. And we ride on board with Dylan Medler, taking us for a high-speed jaunt around this Monza circuit. I walked the circuit with my colleague Nico on Friday evening, and it was quite revealing when you get to chicanes like this, which some of the chicanes have had the curbs lowered, some of the chicanes have not had the curbs lowered, so you can carry more speed through some and then not others. Lesmo 1 we're at right now. Quick blast of the throttle before releasing it once again for Lesmo 2. And then back on the gas once again as you head towards the final chicane on the circuit. There's a little kink here to the left-hand side as you dip downhill. Loving riding on board with Dylan Medler here. Thank you, guys. And here comes the Ascari chicane, where the curbs have been lowered. And you can take a little bit more here. Now Dylan back 100% on the gas pedal, the long straight that goes around the back of the paddock, heading towards the final turn, which is the Curva Parabolica. Dylan, of course, installing the car right now. You can hear the brakes and the tyres squeal under protest. The Parabolica turn, which is a turn that seems to never end. And now Dylan setting himself up to go for a timed lap on this occasion. We go on to the pit wall of the Collection. Dylan's team then is now this long straight before braking for the chicane. The Rettifio back on the gas again, heading towards Curva Grande. Different onboard shot now inside the 296. You can see the flickering in the middle of the dashboard is the rear view screen that all of our 296 challenge drivers have, rather than the rear view mirror, because there is a huge safety bulkhead right behind the driver, which prevents the use of a rear view mirror. The drivers all have a rear view screen. Cameras project a image onto that screen of what's behind, and the drivers all prefer that. It's a more expansive view that they have. So Dylan then with quicker time than anyone through Sector 1 and Sector 2, but that is to be expected. He's the first driver really to show. Let's go back on board with him now. Full chat flat as Dylan really accelerates the 296 challenge car down the back straight. You can see from another shot that we have Ale Balzon on the pit wall, guiding Dylan Medler. Ale himself a very successful Ferrari Challenge driver and GT driver in full. Alessandro Balzan, as here comes Dylan Medler now to give us our first meaningful time. It's a 1:48.768, but do expect the times to come down. There is Ale Balzan to the very left of your picture. He's the one with the headphones on. Angelo Sonara there, you can see with the glasses and the collection Ferrari of Miami, the team that engineer Dylan Medler. So we pick up on a number of other drivers that are out there, including Luigi Coluccio, driver of the number 45 car, who finished P9 eventually yesterday. Luigi Coluccio, that's where he classified. Having had a torrid time at the start of the race, he'll be hoping to right the wrongs of yesterday and put it all behind him for today. So the only time that we have up on the board thus far comes from Dylan Medler, which is a 1:48.768. There's 15 minutes of the session remaining. Now, Yasin Ferrati drives the Emil Ferrari racing team, and he has the benefit of last year's Trofeo Pirelli champion guiding him and coaching him, Giacomo Altoe. So Dylan Medler going for another lap, and as you can see, making some improvements, huge improvements. I did say expect to see the times come tumbling down. Indeed they are. Almost 2 seconds quicker for Dylan Medler across Sector 1 and Sector 2. However, this has really rather compromised his lap because other drivers are out there. And that means that his progress down the back straight was compromised. I think it will still be an improvement, but it will not be as great an improvement as it could have been, I suspect. Well, there you can see, look, it's gone from a 2-second margin to, he's lost at least 8 tenths. Put it into the 1:47s, but I think there was certainly more to be had. And yeah, coming up against traffic on the back straight was just really, really unfortunate for Dylan. However, he will go again. Here is Yasin Ferrati then, driving for the Emil Ferrari racing team. As I mentioned, he has Giacomo Altoe, last year's Trofeo Pirelli champion, who's moved on to other racing activities right now. He's in the garage, he's on the radio, he's on the headphones, and he will be guiding the young talent that is Yasin Ferrati, who Yasin I first met in sim racing a few years ago, and clearly a talented driver who has come into the Ferrari Challenge for the first time of asking this weekend here at Monza, the Temple of Speed. And as you can see, he's third fastest overall, but did a personal best through Sector 1, quicker than anyone through Sector 2. And if he can line up Sector 3 perfectly as he heads towards breaking the timing beam now, this could be a very good time from Yasin. Indeed it is. A 1:45.938 puts him to the top of the table. And there is Giacomo Altoe. Thank you, Franco. There he is, walking back into the garage right now. Last year's Trofeo Pirelli champion, this year guiding Yasin Ferrati. Dylan Medler is P2 now. However, he's gone quickest through Sector 1 and Sector 2. Let's run the telemetry on Dylan Medler's car. Quite clearly, that telemetry is wrong. He's not in neutral. He is accelerating, but coming into the pit lane. So even though he was on the trajectory to improve, he has decided now is the time to come in, and I suspect put a new set of tyres onto that 296 Challenge car. Maybe we stay with Dylan for a moment here to watch the team hard at work. There you can see the new tyres going on the Dylan Medler car. So the times he set were on a set of rubber from yesterday's race. Dylan and his driver coach and the team deciding now is the optimum time, with just under 12 minutes of the session remaining. Now is the optimum time to go out with new tyres. So I would suggest it will take him about a lap and a half to bring these tyres up to temperature. And when he has done that, then expect to see some really meaningful times to come from the driver that hails from Miami in the USA. So Yasin Ferrari then is at the top of the table at the moment with a 1:45.392, having just done another lap and improved still further. So well done, Yasin. Now, he picked up penalties yesterday and finished B4, so didn't take a podium. And who is that? There's one driver just pulled off onto the grass there on the right-hand side. And I rather think, now, Dylan was just on his way out of the pit lane. Could it be Dylan Medler that's pulled off? Yes, it is. So this is at turn one. This is at the chicane, and for whatever reason, Dylan Medler has pulled off the track. Now, he'd just come into the pit lane, just put a new set of rubber on. Frantic activity on the pit wall, I can see from the Collection Ferrari of Miami team. What has happened? We've got a red flag, inevitable, because the Dylan Medler car is stricken on the chicane. So we'll try and find out what has happened there. I just wonder whether one of the wheels was not secured. It's only complete and total conjecture on my part. But there is the car. So literally was on his exit from the pit lane. There we can go on board with the team.
No, gearbox alarm. Ho provato a farlo. I tell him to go, but the gearbox is not working.
Trying to listen into what they're saying there.
There is one drive shot.
So on board with him. Sounds to me like the car has just, whether some sensor has come in and stopped the car. Yeah. Sounds like that. Nico is with me alongside here. You can see the consternation, if you will, along Allée Balzan. Right, Control-Alt-Delete, and he's got the car going again. Whether it was just a little bug in the system, Nico?
Yeah, it happens. I mean, I heard the word drive shaft there, but there was also something about box and alarm, so
yeah,
couldn't quite make it out. But, I mean, in any event, good to see that the car is going again, and that will mean, because he's brought it in on his own power, I believe that means that he is allowed to resume the session, because had he been towed back into the pit lane, even if there had been time remaining,
assistance,
yeah, he wouldn't have been allowed to retake the session, but I believe that's not going to be the case, so after a few minutes of interruption, we will be back going. However, it's only 10 minutes or so remaining. It's a short qualifying as it is in Trofeo Pirelli. And another 10 minutes. So with, even though it's only 9 cars, but that will be quite a hectic second half of the session, and the session will restart in exactly 62 seconds from now.
Okay, well, the plot thickens, but we think it was an alarm that went off in the Dylan Medler car. He is bringing it back to the pit lane. In fact, we go on board with him right now. He'll be receiving instructions from the team. Now, the data that is sent from the car back to the pit wall, they'll be able to analyse that. And I think Nico is right, by virtue of the fact he was able to get the car started again, and he will bring it into the pit lane, of course, because we're still under red flag conditions, but hopefully Dylan will be able to rejoin the session because having just put new tyres on, he was ready to go in terms of qualifying and wants to be on pole position, of course. His partner Juliet will be anxious, I'm sure, but Dylan actually a very cool, calm, collected individual.
He's just going through the pit lane and queuing at the other end, and he'll join it just in time to go back out again as we're green again and the clock is ticking. 10 minutes 14 seconds remaining. I think we can expect pretty much everybody to go out now.
I think you're right. So there is the Dylan Medler car, and it was Dylan that was responsible for the stoppage, and I just picked it up on the corner of my eye that a car had stopped on the exit of the chicane, and I was right. And it was by process of elimination, really, that I was able to identify it being the Dylan Medler car. Gideon Ferrari then currently P2 in this qualifying. He's about to go out once again. The number 77 car is driven by Gilles Renmans, the Francorchamps Motors Brussels driver, who, of course, was on the top step of the podium just yesterday. So he'll be hoping for a good quali section. They're the back end of these wonderful 296 cars. They sound awesome. Oh, particularly when they accelerate the full 3-litre twin-turbo V6 of 700 HP.
Absolutely. And now you see all O's on the left side of your graphics, and there are 5 on the graphics, 4 others who haven't set the time, and I can tell you that they have all come out. So every single car that's taking part in this session is out there on the track, all on their out lap, so no quick times just yet, but that will change in 2 or 3 minutes. In about 9 minutes plus whatever lap is remaining, we will know who will be on pole position.
Vincenzo Scarpetta we run on board with now, weaving from side to side, generation of temperature into tyres, into brakes, get everything up to temperature, because it is going to be a short, sharp qualifying. Green flags being flown by the marshals around the track, and a big thank you to those marshals for ensuring that we are able to enjoy the sport that we love so much. As here, Gideon Ferrari then, the Emil Ferrari racing driver, making his debut in the Ferrari Challenge this weekend here at Monza. A very welcome addition, another young talent, hoping to follow in the footsteps of Giacomo Alzoi in terms of a professional racing career, courtesy of the progress you can make in the Ferrari Challenge. Here is the number 77 car then of Gilles Renmans, whose sector 1 is purple. So on a mission here, just hugging the curb and accelerating right now. So we will see what Gilles is able to do over this lap. As I say, victorious yesterday. The Francorchamps Motors Brussels driver through the kink, under the bridge. Loving that speed camera where you can really get an impression of the speed of the car. Well, 6 100ths down on the Vincenzo Scarpetta time. So it is an improvement. Felix Sersiger also improving across both sectors, purple sector 1, purple sector 2. So over the 7 minutes that remain in this qualifying session, just expect the name at the top of the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen to change with fairly regular abandon, I would suggest.
Yeah. Yesterday, with 9 cars entered, we had 7 of the drivers at the top of the timing at one point. So that is just an indication. And Felix Hirziger puts his name in that list for sure. 1:44.413 is the current pole time, but other quick times are coming from the likes of Scarpetta, Grossman, and Gilles Renmans also going again. So Scarpetta just being number 1 for a moment, now relegated to 3rd, but doing his thing, and you can watch him on board.
He was really fighting with the steering, wasn't he? You look at some drivers who are super smooth, other drivers who are really quite physical and aggressive. There's no necessarily right or wrong way. It's your driving style is what works for you and makes you the star that you are. Björn Grossman goes P2 right now. Scarpetta now P3. Gilles Renmans, he is relegated to P4. Felix Sertiger then is the fastest of the drivers at the moment. All 9 drivers then having posted times. Here comes the number 30 car of our current P1 driver, Felix Hirziger. Nico, who's on an improvement trajectory here.
Absolutely stretching his legs. A 1:44.413 for the moment. Maybe on his way to a sub 1:44 time. We will know in about 20 seconds or so. And other drivers still quick and chasing the Felix Hirziger time. Fine turn this Parabolica apex. Then have to drift wide out to take all the momentum and then back to the inside to take the timing line, which is early on this straight. And indeed, it's a 1:43.758. So 3 purple sectors. The first one just barely beaten by Vincenzo Scarpetta, who is going and who is trying to get up the order again from P4. Others who are quick. Dylan Medler up into P2.
It's going to be changing and changing and changing, I predict, before the end of this session, as Vincenzo Scarpetta now tries to respond. He finds himself lowly, P5. And, is trying very hard here. Purple sector 1, blue sector 2. Blue means personal best rather than best overall. You don't have to necessarily have every sector purple to improve up to P1. Vincenzo Scarpetta, he goes to P2. Felix Hirziger, Scarpetta P2, Dylan Medler P3, Björn Grossman P4. It's all terribly exciting in the remaining 4 minutes of this quali session.
Absolutely, and you can see how close everybody is, how balanced this grid is of cars, and every little mistake can be a difference. Björn Grossman just finished a lap, but because of a track limit excursion, it didn't count. It wasn't a pole lap anyway,
Was
but
it not?
It was a good one, and that didn't count. And it's those very, very small things that can make the difference between potentially on the front row and row 4 on this very, very balanced grid. Luigi Colucci has come into the pits.
Sorry, just watching that in replay. Some real sideways driving there. What I was talking about, physical driving and really aggressive driving. Driving styles different across all our drivers. It's what makes the whole thing so compelling. Gianmarco Marcialetti's garage that we were on board with there. Just for a moment, it's Hirziger. Here comes Yasin Ferrati then, personal best through sector 1. And he is another one of these very physical drivers who is quite aggressive, gives it absolutely everything. Being guided, of course, by our Trofeo Pirelli champion from last year as well. What can Yasin Ferrati do here? Well, the middle sector, he was down in terms of time, Nico. Oh! And he loses the back end of the car. And he's able to get it going straight away again. But that, of course, has probably done some damage to the panel work at the back, and you can see one of the rear wings was pushed up against the tyre. So that will be the end of Yasin Ferrati's qualifying session, I would suggest, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. Luigi Colucci just was in the pit lane, and there we have another look at that. Just a little bit sideways
going in.
Yeah, and then trying to control it, but yeah, and then the back wheel into the gravel, and that really unsettled the balance of the car. It's really, really light anyway at that moment, and that was all the momentum it needed, or rather didn't need.
That was the reaction from our Trofeo Pirelli champion, Giacomo Altoe.
Absolutely. So, Björn Grossman has come into the pit, so has Yasin Ferrati, obviously. Vincenzo Scarpetta. Luigi Colucci was just in the pits for a moment, a minute ago, but has come out again, so he's trying to have another go. He was our pole setter yesterday, and therefore P7 for him won't be anything like satisfactory. But he's trying again. Dylan Medler, he lost some time in the second sector after being very, very quick. He will have one more attempt if he decides to take it, and indeed he does. And that will mean last chance saloon.
Yes, last chance saloon for every driver pretty much now, with just a minute remaining on the clock. So, and there is Gianmarco Marcialetti going to have a conversation with Vincenzo Scarpetta and wish him well. So who can do what in the final stages of this qualifying session? At the moment, it's Felix Hirziger, provisional pole. There is the damaged Yasin Ferrati car back into the garage. Of course, at the moment, it means a P6 start, a row 3 start for him. but that's only if everything stays the way it is at the moment. And, you know, those drivers that are out there on a lap, if they can improve, Yasin could find himself falling down the order.
Yeah, Luigi Coluccio, however, is not that quick. Certainly he was overtaken in that second sector. The first sector was good, but the second certainly isn't. And that, I think, means his attempts at moving up the order have gone away. Gilles Raymond's first sector good, second so-so. He would certainly be able, or would love to be up on the front row, but I rather think that is a very, very tall order in the final sector, but we will know in a moment. And yeah, good final attempt, did improve, but it wasn't quite enough to leapfrog the Vincenzo Scarpetta time, and therefore remains second row.
Well, the checkered flag is out on the session, and Yasin Ferrari getting out of the car then and inspecting the damage.
And Luigi Coluccio did pull something out of the hat on the final sector. It has indeed gone to the front row, P2, and that was a magnificent final sector.
Well, there are some drivers that we would consider to be out of position from that qualifying session, which means that the race is going to be terribly interesting, Nico.
For sure. I mean, yesterday we saw Björn Grossman actually at position further down the order from P7. Within a lap and a half, he was in P1, and it was no fluke. He picked them off one by one. Now, I'm not going to imply he's going to do it again, but equally I'm not going to imply he doesn't have the capability of doing it again. Luigi Coluccio, he was pole setter, and he stayed in front all the way into the final, into the first corner of the first lap, and then was royally received a bump and ended up in the gravel. As we have a look at the Manuela Gostner. Sorry, at Manuela Gostner in conversation. Yeah, I don't know where that was going.
Dress sense, gearbox. I mean, what was it going to be? Right. Out of the car then. Qualifying done and dusted for our Trofeo Pirelli drivers. It was dramatic, but it is Felix Herziger driving the number 30 car, who finished P8 yesterday, or classified as P8. Goes from pole position there, gains a point for that pole position, and of course has got the perfect place on the grid because he's going from P1. So that's qualifying for our Pirelli drivers done and dusted. Pirelli AM drivers are next up, and just 4 minutes away from the session starting for our Pirelli AM drivers. But for our Pirelli drivers, Felix Herziger ahead of Luigi Coluccio, Vincenzo Scarpetta, Gilles Renman, Dylan Medler, Björn Grossman, Yasin Ferrari and Quinn Wiedlersbach, and they're ahead of Max Mugelli. As you can see in graphics, the complete lineup. So just a couple of minutes to wait before the green light for our Pirelli AM drivers to get out there, and a significant number of those, which means the track is going to be very busy. There you can see some 16 with enthusiasm. The flag is being waved here at Monza. Andrew Morrow was victorious yesterday in the Pirelli AMs. He was chased all the way, to be fair, but some brilliant defensive driving from Andrew Morrow. From Charles Hurst, we'll see what he can do, but we're watching Luigi Coluccio, who made a far, far better job of getting out of that 296 challenge car than I would ever do. And he is out of the car and ready for the race to come a little bit later. So the Rosso Corsa team there just analysing everything that went on during that qualifying session. Luigi Coluccio, very talented driver. As too is this man, Henri Acide. Winner last year in Coppa Shell, elevated to Pirelli AM this year. There is Henri. A driver of a number of years of racing experience, and really tell that. Gianmarco Marzioletti and Babalus there, encouraging Gianmarco Marzioletti and just giving final instructions before the qualifying session gets underway. The number 87 car is driven by NM. Love the gold on the number 87 Rosso Corsa racing car. Another one of our drivers in Pirelli AM. Menacing look through the crash helmet, has to be said.
It looked like, no?
Yasin Ferrari then.
When you stop here on the red flag, we are taking all the circles and goes everything okay.
Analysing, thinking about work to be done. Andreas Berg Sorensen for Formula Racing. Andreas Berg Sorensen then, who we first met in a winter series a couple of years ago. Made his debut in the Ferrari Challenge, has kind of really not looked back, and a very articulate young man who is a very good driver as well. Rafael Duran, who was racing in the winter. Rafael and his father Albert, dual racing family, if you will, and Rafael and Alberto also racing in North America in the Ferrari Challenge. So making sure they're doing plenty of racing. And there, the car's just champing at the bit because we're, what, 26 seconds away from the green light at the end of the pit lane and the session getting underway. Going to be a busier one, although the last session was pretty lively.
Yeah, definitely. And now we're about 7 seconds away from this going green. We've said it before. You generally try and install the car on yesterday's Pirellis and then try to go for the new one, which is all good and fine if you've got 30 minutes of net time. But when it's only down to 20, that means everything has to be accelerated, and you have just so much less wiggle room. If something goes wrong, if there is a red flag, all of a sudden that time really becomes tight. So gonna be interesting how the teams approach this, how the drivers approach this. The end of the white line at the end of the pit exit, no drivers is allowed to cross that. One has to stay on the correct side, the left side as we look at it, the right side from the driver's point of view, and as we go with Henri Hassid to the beginning of the part of his first out lap here in this session. We saw some qualifying sessions yesterday where the out lap was already a little bit of a race. It's a lot more calm now, although I say that, and we have the first overtakes already, with Francesco Galli overtaking Henri Hassid.
Is that Hanno? Like Hanno Laskowski?
Yeah, it looked like it. Wasn't quite sure to pick out the livery of the car, but the face certainly matched. Or the eyes. Not much more of the face that you could see. There's these confident eyes that look very much like Hanno Laskowski.
Okay, so our Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers then. Take them a few moments to get up to speed, if you will, and give us the lap times that we're looking for. Marco Zanazzi, podium yesterday, P3 if memory. Yes. Always there or thereabouts, always very quick, Nico. Still, now that is the gravel you can see on the track there is from the Yasin Ferrari outing towards the barriers. Don't think it's going to hurt the drivers too much there.
No, probably not, but it's always something you want to be at least aware of as a driver, to not be caught out. But yeah, it's not in the braking zone, it's on the exit of the turn, so and there is a long straight afterwards, so any dirt on the tires will have dissipated by the time they get to the braking zone into the parabolica. We see even more cars file out of pit lane. All but two have now made it out onto the track.
I think that is Hanno that was making his way out of the pit lane as we look at another age now, Henri Hassid for Kessel Racing. I made mention of the fact he won the Coppa Shell category last year, and therefore gets elevated to Pirelli And that normally follows suit, doesn't it? When you win one category, if it's possible, you get moved up to the next category. And I say if it's possible, because if you win Trofeo Pirelli, you can't move up within the Ferrari challenge, but you do find your career is on an upward trajectory, and you might find yourself in endurance racing or some other form of GT racing because you've proven yourself in this uber competitive Ferrari challenge environment.
Hint, hint, Niklas Nielsen, hint, hint.
I just thought I'd mention it, just thought.
Yeah, Henri definitely, I don't want to say was dominant last year because he was challenged by the likes of Manuel Agosta and John Dillon and others. But when it all was said and done, he was clearly the winner and took a remarkable win also in the World Finals at the reserves.
Yes, you're right.
Certainly had an amazing start to that race. Came from P5 to P1 within the matter of what felt like 30 centimeters.
I was going to say it was a short run for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Back in Imola, where the weather was not quite as nice as it is here, and we enjoy the sunshine.
The rain was biblical, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was.
Which reminds me, there's a story to tell about. I think were we in Portugal or Spain?
Spain. It was Valencia. If you're thinking of the same thing as
we liberated a parasol and used it as an umbrella. Which, apologies to circuit management, I don't know where that ended up, but it kept us dry, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the statute of limitations have run out on that. We gave it back now. Henri Hassid had an eventful qualifying yesterday and actually had a coming together with Michael Verhagen, which as a result dropped 2 positions on the grid. All of them had a reasonable day yesterday. Rafael Duran has a reasonable beginning to the qualifying session and puts his name at the very front end of the timings. I say generally at this stage of the qualifying, those times not necessarily relevant towards the end of the session. In a 20-minute session, you never know what's going to happen, so better to have them. Andrew Morrow also had a pretty decent day yesterday.
Yes, he did. He took his win, and he sent me a message last night to say that one felt good, Dave. You know, to win at Monza is something very special. Andrew did that yesterday, and you certainly wouldn't bet against him repeating that success today. So we're just waiting for meaningful times to come in, and of course we'll be heading off to Spain 2 times this year with our 2025 calendar as we go to Valencia and Barcelona. I'm just thinking of a car park in Barcelona.
Don't.
And a power outlet that nearly married a rental car with my colleague alongside me at the helm. How you missed that is beyond me. It is.
Yeah, I missed it twice. First I missed seeing it, I missed it by 2 centimeters. But I missed it, and that is good for everybody involved, including the power outlet and the rental car. Henri Hassid, he is not in a rental car, he is in P6, and by the end of the sentence he will be in P1. Timed that back pretty okay.
You did. 146.405 from Henri Hassid. Great job done by Henri Hassid. You can see von Skeltermar looking on, look, in the red jacket there. Von Skeltermar, a Coppa Shell driver who will be out qualifying with the Shell drivers in due course. Here's Andreas Berg Sorensen. It's Henri Hassid from Gianmarco Marzioletti and the Rafael Duran, then Andrew Morrow. But guys, Francesco Galli, Marco Zanazzi. That's the way it looks at the moment. And there indeed is von Skeltermar from Kessel Racing. Just absorbing what the drivers are doing out there on track, Nico.
Yeah, he was in the same category as Henri Hassid last year. Now, Henri has moved up to Pirelli AM, and therefore, Fons is allowed to watch Henri from the comfort of his pit, while Henri is going through the turns, and that, in that case, was Lesmo too, as he is on this. There are so many straights on this track. Hard to identify them. Anyway, between Lesmo 2 and the Ascari, which Henri Hassid breaks for at this stage, and you can see the time for the moment almost a full second quicker than his only provisional pole time. So, provisional pole time, 12.5 minutes remaining. And Herbert Geis, as you said, very, very good showing, P2 for the moment. Still missing from the relevant times is Michael Verhagen, very quick driver. in his own right and very, very quick yesterday. Challenged Andrew Morrow all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't quite get the job done for P1, as Henri Acide is unseated by Francesco Galli and retakes that first position by 7/1000.
It's very close. Very close, 7/1000. That's Henri Acide at his best, Nico. Quite a physical driver. I think that's fair to say. Takes no prisoners out there on track. And every driver has their own driving style, and that's Henri's style. Marco Zanazzi, personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2. You can see the Panetti Motorsport garage there looking on. That's Marco Zanazzi then on the podium yesterday. He's currently P12. This is going to be an improvement, surely. Whether it's going to trouble the front runners at the moment, only time will tell. Well, yes, it will, because he goes to P3. Some 3 3/4 tenths down on the best time so far, which came from Henri Acide and Francesco Galli. Here is Hendrik Viol, currently sitting P6. Now, personally best through Sector 1. We'll try and build yet further speed through Sector 2 as Andrew Morrow goes quickest overall of any driver with a 1:45.260. So Hendrik then, Scuderia Prague driver, going very quickly. So too is Henri Acide, who we pick up on right now, relegated to P3. So quite a battle going on between all the drivers out there qualifying in Trofeo Pirelli, and this is what we like to see. Henri Acide then shortcuts as much as he can towards the timing line, and Henri Acide goes back to P1. And he's the first driver into the 44s, but here comes Hendrik Viol. Is he going to respond? Not by enough. 3 tenths down on Henri Acide. Hendrik Viol P4. Andrew Morrow, who was momentarily P1, now finds himself P3. And over the remaining 10 minutes or so, we can expect those times to continue changing, although the times will be coming down, the margins within which they will be coming down probably narrowing somewhat. Andrew Morrow, personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2. If he can hook up the final sector, this could be a time that will trouble P1 once again. Let's see what he can do. He's got some traffic, but I think it was far enough away that it's not going to impede his lap. There he is, coming out of Parapolica now, and as you can see, headlights ablaze, but whilst I don't think the traffic did impede, he was not able to improve his P3 position. However, Michael Verhagen, being coached by one Mr. L. Tenvorta, is certainly on a quick lap here with purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Here comes Michael Verhagen then for Ferrari Warsaw, currently P6. Crossing the beam, P1, a full half a second quicker than anyone else, which, dare I say, makes me suggest that maybe Michael, one of the first drivers to go onto a new set of tyres.
Yeah, possibly. Definitely had a very good qualifying already yesterday, so I think the time progression in this session will inform us about the tyre strategies as well. Also very quick is Marco Zanazzi and Andrew Morrow, of course, less than a tenth of the pace after the first sector, and we will know in a few seconds where he sits going into the final sector. Lost a little bit more time, but still very much in play for a significant improvement. And we've seen very, very quick sectors through Parabolica, so if you get that perfectly right, you can gain a few tenths there.
Yes.
And in the meantime, you can see that Andrew Morrow's current position drops down by virtue of other drivers completing laps before him, and I think he will respond by the time he has reached the timing line.
So crossing the line now, up 3 places, back to P3. So you were right, and you called that correctly. Mikael Verhagen remains P1. Is he improving? Sector 1 he didn't improve. Sector 2 he did. Again, if he can hook it all up through Sector 3, he could be beating his own provisional P1 time of 1:44.379. Let's see if he's able to do that. And the answer is yes, by a tenth and a bit. Sorry, that didn't sound very accurate. It was 0.129 for full accuracy. And very accurate is Marco Zanassi, Nico. Very quick.
Absolutely. First sector, very, very quick. Second sector, is it up to speed? Yeah, personal best, but still less than or more than 2/10ths quicker through 2 sectors. Andrew Moore also quick through sector 1. So Andreas Berg Sorensen and Herbert Guy. So 6.5 minutes remaining. Changes are afoot. Otto Blank, another one who's currently fairly lowly in the order, who is very much pushing towards getting into the top 10 or even higher. Yes, but we look at Marco Zanassi, who's the next one of those to cross the timing line, a 1:44.250, and he beats it, a 1:44.074. Very, very good final sector and a good all-around lap from Marco Zanassi.
And as I suggested, the margins with which the improvements are coming are beginning to reduce now. Andrew Morrow, I don't think this is going to trouble his current P3 time, because Sector 2 was not where he wanted it to be, and sure enough, he crosses the line 4.5 seconds down on where he was. So, and there we go. There is Andrew's driver coach, Johnny Kane, right in the middle there, and he'll be advising where Andrew can find some time out there on track. Marco Zanassi then for Motor Service Panetti Motorsport, the quickest driver so far, a 1:44.074. Is so competitive, so close in the Ferrari Challenge. The top 5 places, Nico, 9/10ths between them. And we are now seeing just 1 or 2 track limits warnings come up. Whether that will have an impact before the 5 minutes is over of this 5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. I think Herbert Geis is in receipt of 2 track limits. And at the top end of the chart, Andrew Morrow having picked up a track limits warning as well.
Yeah, Herbert Geis, his previous best time was deleted. Wasn't a big improvement over his currently best time, but it would have been an improvement. So he has to do it all over again. Danilo Del Favaro drops down to P10 and responds and gets back into P9. So
nothing if not consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Other drivers who are pushing up the order. Martin Havas is one of them. Currently has set a really, really good time. Currently down in P15. He would like to be higher. Michael Verhagen definitely giving it everything.
And do you know what? I mentioned driver coach Larry Ten Voorde. Larry is very much that style of driver, isn't he? I'm tempted to say everything out, give it 100%. And you can see that in Mikael Verhagen, and it's working, Nico, because Sector 1 and Sector 2 are both purples. You know, you can almost hear Larry saying, go on then.
Is that all you got?
Yeah.
It's the Dario Caso School of Driving in the Ferrari Challenge, just to bring up good memories. Michael Verhagen brings up very, very good times, and he completes it. 3 purple sectors.
Brilliant job.
You often say you don't have to paint every sector purple to be best, but
however, if you do,
there is a logical extension of that. If every sector is the best, you will be the quickest, and Michael Verhagen does it. And we're now down to 3 minutes remaining, so the time is running out for anybody else who will want to challenge the Ferrari Warsaw driver who currently reigns supreme in this session.
Only driver in the 1:43s. Well done, Mikael Verhagen. Marco Zanassi, P2, Andrew Morrow, P3, Hendrik Viol, P4. Here's Hanno Laskowski, the number 85 car, being chased by the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver Danilo Del Favaro, who is P9 at the moment. There's trading places between P8, 9 and 10. Those 2 drivers, Andreas Berg Sorensen splitting them at the moment as he's taken P9. And here comes Marco Zanassi, who's trying to respond to Mikael Verhagen. However, Sector 1 didn't work, and now he's got a couple of cars in front of him, which will impact what he's trying to do.
Well, he might be lucky enough that they are also still quick enough that they won't impede, but actually might give him a little bit of a slipstream. I don't think that they are impeding him in terms of track position. Will it distract him a little bit? We don't quite know. Marco Zanazzi completes the lap. A very good one, a very good one. It's an improvement, but not in terms of positions. Who else is challenging? Henri Hassid is trying to move up. Francesco Galli is trying to move up. Both of them in the final sector. Both of them not necessarily on a pole trajectory, but definitely on a chance to improve. Henri Hassid moves up one space, unseats Francesco Galli, who still has a chance to respond.
Well, Michael Verhagen has decided that he's done enough. So too Hendrik Viol, who we see walking through the Scuderia Prague garage. Hendrik Viol feeling that he has done everything that he can do. It's P4, make that P5 now.
As Francesco Galli has completed his lap and has moved up the way to P3, so a good lap towards the end of the session.
The Larry Tenforder Driver Academy, like the Dario Carzo School of 19 mil spanners. Here's Marco Zanassi. And our great two-box shot here of the Pinetti garage, as well as Marco Zanassi. It's not going to be this lap, Nico.
No, he might just be able to get another one in, but the question is, how much do you take out of the tires when all you can improve, and I say that with all due respect, is one position. There is a point for pole position, of course, but if that means you have to overstress your tires that you will have to use in the race, the trade-off is something that the teams really have to think about. Let's leave it at that.
Francesco Galli then with personal best through sector 1. He's currently third fastest for Kessel Racing.
Still very much throwing it through the Ascari corners.
Great to see, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great car control. And the checkered flag is out, so this is the last opportunity. Rafael Duran with a good first sector. That's something to bear in mind in about a minute or so. He will be one of the last to have a chance at improvement, but Francesco Galli currently P3. Can he make it onto the front row?
Not quite.
Not quite. Andreas Berg-Sorensen with a purple first sector, another one that leaves it very, very late, and we pick him up there. There was some dust kicked up, but I don't think that there was anything that would hinder him. Or no, I don't think so. Just maybe someone just dipping a wheel into the gravel. So Andreas Berg-Sorensen, he is going from Lesmo 2 to the Ascari, and there we will see what he did in Sector 2.
Down in sector 2.
And maybe there was something more and he had to let up, because obviously you don't just lose 4 seconds in a sector without there being a conscious decision of letting up.
Here's Henri Hassid. And again, you look at the sector 1 and sector 2 times, Nico.
Yeah, he's still got a chance. I don't think it's going to be enough for the front row. It's neither personal or overall best, but it's close to those. So it's only 3.5 tenths off the pace after 2 sectors. But I do think he's still going. I think he's still trying. He would need a 1:44.642, and indeed he does that.
You were right, as we can see Michael Verhagen in our split picture there. I think that his P1 is pretty much assured now. Yes, indeed, with Marco Zanassi, Henri Hassid and Francesco Galli now having completed their tours, if you will, of the Monza circuit. It is Michael Verhagen, Ferrari Warsaw P1, and well done. Great job done. And there he is with driver coach, handshake. Christian Kinch comes along to offer congratulations as well. And that's, I did tell you, it was a very physical drive where he gave it his all and threw it across those curves, but it worked. course, we will bring you the full and confirmed classification from our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli AM qualification in just a moment or so. And then we've still got another qualifying entertainment spectacle to bring you, which will be for our Shell drivers. And then it's all down to the racing. Well done, Michael. P1. And as promised, here is the classification. Mikko Verhagen, P1, Marco Sanassi, P2. Then it was Henri Acide. Ahead of Francesco Galli, Andrew Morrow. Yesterday's race winner, P5. Then Hendrik Viol, Herbert Geiss, Andreas Berg Sorensen taking P8. Ahead of Danilo Del Favaro, Rafael Duran, NM, Otto Blank, Hanno Luskowski, Gianmarco Marzialetti, Martin Havas, and Armin Arifpour, completing our Trofeo Pirelli AM competitors and their qualifying session. Up next, we have Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell qualifying to come. That's about it for now. We will be back with those Coppa Shell cars in due course. Bye-bye for now.
Facciamo su quella rossa? Prova, prova. Prova, 1, 2, prova. Prova.
This is Monza. This is Ferrari Challenge Round 1 of 2025. And this is going to be the qualifying session for our Coppa Shell drivers to set the grid for their second race of the weekend to come. This is it then, the Temple of Speed, founded back in 1922, built in the Royal Villa of Monza Park. 5.7 kilometers, 12 turns, 4 left, 8 right. 20 kilometers from central Milan. And the Temple of Speed, named for very good reason by Jiminy, a quick 5.7 kilometers. That's for sure. Track temperature currently 27 degrees, the air temperature 17 degrees. We've got 15 cars that will be out there on track to qualify. 30-minute qualifying session for our Coppa Shell drivers, and their race to come this afternoon. So generally the form guide is this. Drivers will go out on a set of tyres used yesterday, get their eye in, so to speak, then come in, put a new set of Pirelli rubber on, and then go again. There's John Dillon for Formula Racing. And John then in the 151 car, finishing just off the podium yesterday. It was P4. And John, a race winner in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell, knows how to pedal this 296 car, that's for sure. We'll see what he can do today. James Wyland, a very regular competitor in the Ferrari Challenge, and has raced all over the world with Ferrari Challenge, North America, Asia Pacific and Japan, and here in Europe as well. And was telling me yesterday in conversation that he plans to be here for a number of events this year, and sitting on the banking there, some spectators to enjoy this qualifying session, which gets underway with Thomas Gostner, I believe, followed by daughter Manuela, straight out of the pit lane and on their way. Now this car, the 169 car, is driven by Fabrizio Fontana, who was victorious yesterday and was the 488 champion last year. As we look at Christian Kinch, who hasn't yet made it out of the pit lane. Oh, charming. But he's not far away from so doing. It was a bit Tommy Lindroth-like. Incidentally, Tommy, if you're watching, we miss you, friend. I'm given to understand you'll be back for the next round. Looking forward to seeing you.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a Swedish way of saying good morning, I guess, or almost midday here, local time. Yeah, Fabrizio Fontana, who obviously won the 488 challenge in Europe last year, won the title, and was very dominant in the races, including qualifying. I believe he took pole in the first 7 qualifying sessions consecutively to start the season.
It's
and
an amazing feat, isn't it?
Yeah, and has done it again, and he has certainly made the transition from the 488 to the 296 without even the slightest hiccup. Joining a grid that is so full and abundant of talent, with the likes of Manuela Gostner, with John Dillon, who we already saw, Eric Chung, who moved up from Coppa Shell, Zoe Strimpias, James Wyland, of course. So many drivers who you would argue should be regular podium places. And to just come into the series and effectively blitz it on the first day at the new job is quite a feat. Will he be able to replicate that? You wouldn't bet against it, but equally, in the Ferrari Challenge, it's so balanced that yesterday's form is not necessarily an indication of what will happen in this quali and in the race later on.
You're absolutely right. There is Daniele Diamato, driver coach to Eric Chung. And Daniele and Eric sharing a car, of course, over the winter when they raced together. Forming that very good bond between driver coach and driver. And Eric Chung, of course, another ever present in the Ferrari Challenge, and he loses none of his ambition or excitement or drive or determination as every season passes. And Eric, again, another one of those drivers. In fact, the 15 drivers in the Coppa Shell category that we see here, including Jan Sandman, who has moved up, of course, from Shell-Am. There's not one of the drivers that it sounds disrespectful. There's not one of the drivers that's also ran. Every driver is capable of being a race winner and on the podium. No question. A very, very competitive, a very demanding category this year. You're going to see a lot of different winners, I predict.
Oh, definitely. And it wasn't the same last year, but there, quite a few drivers have changed categories.
Yes.
Henri Hassid has moved up to Pirelli Am. And as we already said, Fontana coming from the 488s, a number of drivers from Shell Am up to Shell and immediately showing their speed. And Jan Sandman, as you said, is one of them. And he is showing that the first sector is purple, the second sector is now purple. The first sector was eclipsed by someone else running behind him, and that's why the color has changed. And it looks like Jan Sandman has bailed on this lap. Now, early goings, we've got still 26 minutes remaining.
Yes.
So it's more about going through the progression than setting the very best time right now. And that driver who has gone past him was Christian Maciel, who also had a very, very good showing on his premiere yesterday.
Yep, I agree with you. Real talent, who was also racing over the winter and was victorious over the winter and choosing to contest the Ferrari Challenge Championship for this season and going P1 in the early stages of this qualifying. But two drivers that immediately, three drivers now that immediately pushed Cristiano down the order were James Wyland and Manuela Gausner and Thomas Gausner, and now John Dillon goes to the top of the chart. But you'll see those times changing with regular abandon during the early part of the session, and then again in the second part of the session. What do you mean by two parts, Dave? Well, the first part, of course, the drivers are out, as I mentioned, on yesterday's tyres. They'll come in, I was going to say at half time, but they'll come in at a time during the session, put some new tyres on and go out and then set really meaningful times.
Yeah, one of the reasons is they have to race on the same set of tires that they qualify on, or they have a tire set allocated for the day.
Yep.
And therefore they don't want to stress them too much during qualifying, and that's why they do the first half of the session on the tires that they're not going to race, so they will be as fresh as possible. And fresh is what we see in terms of our timing screen, because it's light with purple, meaning overall best times.
Yeah.
And times that are quicker than the current pole time, provisional pole time. One of those is Manuela Gausner, but there is more than half the grid actually is on the way to eclipse the best 1:48.946 from John Dillon.
If you were to ask me a supplementary question, which is, well, why on earth do they go out twice? Part of the going out early on the set of yesterday's tyres is, of course, to get everything up to speed and get your eye in. But it's also to put a banker lap in just in case, because you don't know what might happen during the session.
No, 100%. There is no chance for rain, so that's not going to happen. But obviously, we've seen red flags with the gravel beds. Once a car is stuck there, the session will be suspended, and everything you've done in terms of preparing on an out lap and getting everything up to temperature might count for naught, because you have to do it all over again. And we've seen qualifying sessions which had 4 or 5 red flags, and it was never enough time ticked off.
Just couldn't get them.
Yeah, and then obviously towards the end, if that happens, traffic will be uber intense. So even if there is no red flag or anything like that, you're not necessarily bound to find a clean lap. So whatever you have on your timing sheet is good.
Yes, better to bank one than not. So, first 7.5 minutes of the session done. James Wyland looking lively here. Sector 1, he is quicker than anyone. Has got traffic ahead of him, though. But that traffic is going pretty quickly as well, so potentially not harming James' efforts, although actually the dark grey across Sector 2 would suggest actually it has, because he's not on the same speed advancement trajectory that he was on. It's Wyland, Fontana, then it's Maciel, and the two Gausners, the top 5.
Yeah, and Wyland you could just see drop off a little bit, giving a little bit of distance to the Jan Sandman car, and I think Fontana did a similar thing. So both of them are regrouping, and I think Fabrizio will come into the pit lane by virtue of trajectory, and indeed he does. Jan Sandman does complete his lap, and in the meantime, Oskar Lincevic has gone to the top of the timings. He didn't have a good race yesterday. Was out of the race before it finished, so didn't score heavily, but he is looking to rectify the wrongs of yesterday, and thus far, very, very good showing from him. There is Christian Kinch, our friendly Swede.
Yep, Formula Racing. Great to see Christian back in the Ferrari Challenge. And he will be hoping to improve upon his current P9 position in qualifying, and I'm sure he will. He was quick through Sector 1 and Sector 2 relatively, and indeed he improves 4 places up to P5 right now. And well, it goes to the end with a new set of tyres going on.
Proving what you said would happen, and we see the first 3 drivers are back into the pit lane, and I think the number of white P's in front of the blue backdrop on the graphics will become more over the next few minutes.
I agree.
And then those will turn to orange O's, and then we will have blistering times towards the end of the session. So that is the prediction here from the commentary studio. Let's see what happens.
Yes, our predictions sometimes go awry, don't they? There is James Wyland then. And again, I wonder whether he will indicate right now and come into the pit lane. Well, my wonderment.
Wonder no more.
Yes.
Wonder no more. There is Christian Kinch, P5. We watched him take that P5 the last time around. He is improving again, and it's a very, very good first sector, actually quicker than the current pole time through Sector 1. Let's see what Sector 2 does. Lost a little bit of time, but still going strong. There we can see the continuation of the James Wyland strategy.
Skeltermore to the right-hand side of your picture there, making way, allowing Christian Kinch to come through. Again, purple Sector 1, Sector 2. I think through Sector 2, or up until that point, he was 6 1/1000s down. Is this going to be another improvement? How did Sector 3 wrap up? Well, pretty good, to be fair, because he goes P2 right now, Nico.
Yeah, just less than 5 100ths off the pace. And I think that he might come into the pits fairly soon to also update his rubber.
Yep.
And there is Eric Chung.
Telemetry on the Eric Chung car, 270 kilometers per hour before braking down through the gearbox. As you can see, the rev counter on the screen as well. Full chat flat, give it everything you can. And there he's driver coach Daniele Diamato, himself a winner in Ferrari Challenge and many other classes of racing as well. He's certainly a very talented race car peddler.
Oh, for sure. And Eric Chung is one who's super experienced, and we saw it in the race yesterday, where he knew that the driver in front of him, Zoe Scrimpius, with whom he had come up from Shell to Shell this year, had been on the maximum number of freebies in terms of track warnings, and he pushed him and pushed him and pushed him, and eventually Zoe made that one mistake. And so even though Eric Chung didn't get past him on the track,
Didn't need to.
He didn't need to. The penalty that Zoe's got for it meant that Eric Chung was classified in front of him, and it's just one part of racing is
that experience.
Yeah, you have to have it in your head as much as you have to have it in your hands and feet and everything that you use physically to pedal the car. The mental aspect is a key one, and
Here comes Eric into the pit lane now.
absolutely. As we see a number of cars who have come in, have already filed out of pit lane again. So with 17.5 minutes, the likes of Cristiano Maciel, John Dillon, Manuel Agostna, Ray Acosta, who performed really, really well yesterday, finished in P2, had a quiet race for finishing second, because the battles were mostly going on behind him in fairness.
There, his driver coach opens the door. Here is von Skeltermar, who is certainly out of position, I would suggest. Some good times to come from Fons before we get to the end of this qualifying session, which is around about 16.5 minutes away. Von Skeltermar then, Kessel Racing, with whom he has been loyal for lots and lots of years. The combination of team and driver is a formidable one in the Ferrari Challenge, and almost as formidable as the teeth painted front the car, which has been Fonz's trademark for as many years as I have known him, and has caused him to have one of the most photographed Ferrari Challenge cars ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is the one. I still remember from our first year in the challenge that I used an image of that in the promo material, and that is so many years ago, and it has been a consistent theme, and it goes way beyond the car.
Oh,
the
yes.
helmet. There is when the car is parked in the garage, there is a small rubber animal attached to the antenna, which is also a shark, and you know it just permeates Fonz's racing apparel and identity almost.
Yes.
And yeah, he's actually a very nice guy. He doesn't bite. Not that I know anyone. Anyway,
No, very, very, very fan-friendly. Very fan-friendly.
absolutely, yeah.
Accelerating now, personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2. Heading towards the timing lane now, P14 Fons Skeltermar, and improves the place to P13. Expect more improvements to come during the next 15 minutes. Rincevic is the quickest driver so far, ahead of Kinch, Maciel. Then it's Weiland, Fontana, Gosner, Dillon, Sandman, Gosner, Martin, the top 10. That will change, I predict.
Yeah, and one of the drivers we were already mentioning is Soy Scrimpias, and he's used a little bit of a different strategy. He just came out a couple of minutes ago, so he's now going through the progression of getting everything up to temperature. I would assume, based on how late he has come out, that possibly he's already on the new set of Pirellis.
I think that's a fair assumption, Nico.
We will see. We don't see him on the timing screen because he's the only driver who hasn't set a time, but we can see him in picture now in the foreground as Fabrizio Fontana, who is obviously running quickly, so we naturally focus on him as he rounds the Parabolica. We follow him, but we saw Zoe Scrimpias, and we will certainly be with him as he gets anywhere close to competitive lap times. Fabrizio Fontana, P5 yesterday, pole setter yesterday, stays P5 for the moment. But we're now definitely in that second part of the qualifying sessions where we do expect the times to be tumbling down. Von Skeltermar not quite there yet, but he's on the back straight heading towards Parabolica, so let's see what happens in a few moments time. Certainly two good first sectors, and was less than a tenth of the pace through sector 2, so expect that position to be easily in the top 10, possibly the top 3. And yeah, indeed,
P2.
well done, Fons.
Sorry, I was laughing just a little bit because where our commentary studio is in the Monza media complex, if you will. I was watching from the corner of my eye as cars were coming into the pit lane, which is just above one of the tunnels here, and somebody lost it on their moped going through the tunnel, which of course played to my really rather wicked sense of humour as he was jogging with the scooter up the hill. Back on script, Dave.
And that's a bus. No, actually, that's Cristiano Maciel who is running into in this session, just having gone up into second place. And there is von Skeltermar again, who's again very, very good through sector 1. So you can really see how, even though the previous lap was good, and I'm not implying that there was a mistake from Fons, it's just now that the car and the tire and the brakes are just a little bit further advanced in terms of progression, even though sector 2 wasn't good, or not good enough by his standards in his quest to challenge for pole position. It just shows that you only have a number of laps where everything is 100% pole worthy.
As we split the picture into the Kessel Racing Garage, that's a sight I'm very pleased to see Dr. Stephen Earle looking on at von Skeltermar's progress. Welcome back, Stephen. And he was involved in an incident yesterday, and that's just great to see him in the garage looking on at what his teammate von Skeltermar is doing. Really good to see Dr. Stephen Earle then. And here is von Skeltermar. That's a nice super slow-mo there through the chicane. And this is the current provisional pole sitter, Oscar Lee Rinčević, also a Kessel Racing driver. Whoa, love that speed cam.
Yeah.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry. This is Fabrizio Fontana, who's pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love my sound effects.
Fontana.
No charge. Where is Fabrizio at the moment? Oh, P8. So he's got some work to do, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he's going about that work. And
however,
track limits is obviously something that we haven't discussed too much today, fortunately, because not a lot of good lap times have been deleted. This is definitely one of them. Because Fabrizio, let's have a look where the time stops. Not that it really matters in terms of progression. It would have been pole. It would have been the provisional pole. So quicker that by about 4/100ths than the Rinčević time. So Fabrizio certainly has the pace, but he has to do it again. As Cristiano Maciel also has the pace and hasn't run foul of the white lines and what they delineate as the allowable track surface. And that was a good save.
That was a good save. That was a heart-stopping moment for him, I think. Goodness me, well saved, sir.
Yeah, not necessarily quick, but a good save, and definitely beats the alternative. We have seen a few drivers, especially through Ascari, have their issues on the exit, because the flatter curves just allow you to be so much more aggressive, and it's tempting to just overdo it a little bit. So Cristiano Maciel, with that issue, obviously lost a lot of time in that sector. Let's see that once again.
Whoa.
And I dare say, good thing that the curbs were dry, because otherwise that could have gone so horribly wrong.
That's a lovely image, to be fair. Whoever the cameraman is there, well done. That was a nice thing to see. Right, Fabrizio Fontana then continues his quest to try and keep it within the white lines during qualifying and set a really, really quick time. Sector 1 was really good. Sector 2, he may have been impacted by other cars. Not necessarily slowing him enough, but I think this will be an improvement, but I don't think it will be an improvement where he wants it to be, and I think that's fair, isn't it? He's improved 2 places, but we know there's more in there. James Wyland also hoping to improve from his P4 place, but doesn't. Does 144.999.
Well, we're into the 144s,
Yep.
barely, but we are there, and James Wyland is in P1, and Eric Chung is in P2. He has also moved up the order. John Dillon, another one that's very, very quick. Eric Chung, who we go on board with, as we just said, has just moved up the order. And you can see some cars coming out of pit lane, others in different parts of preparation as we pick up John Dillon on the back straight. This is the traffic, and this is the problem when you have a lap compromise due to track limits or anything else. You're never assured that the next one will be clean.
No.
Because when you're that quick, you don't have, you can't really maneuver yourself. You are where you are, and if someone else is in the way, you have to deal with it. John Dillon deals with this lap okay-ish, I dare say. I think his next one will be one to watch.
Yes, at the moment it is Wyland P1, Chung P2, Rinčević P3. Here is Fabrizio Fontana. Again, he's just not seemingly able to stitch up all 3 of the sectors.
Yeah, but it's still looking at the timing screen in detail. It's only 7 100ths off the pace through 2 sectors. So even though the colors don't necessarily imply it, he is quick and he will move up the order. Will it be just enough for P1?
No.
But you're talking about 100ths.
I agree. I agree. So, and he won't be satisfied with P2.
I'm sometimes not sure he's satisfied with P1. I think P0 would be his preference, but he is such a remarkable character, so enthusiastic, and I mean, he appreciates everything. You could see it. He was really moved yesterday with the result that he got.
Yes,
and
yes.
I mean, that's just great to see. Also great to see John Dillon, who really goes about his craft with a lot of ambition and very, very good through the second sector. Again, almost identical time, but now track limits bites John Dillon.
And we saw that as it happened, didn't we? So this lap then will have to be bailed. Here comes Fabrizio Fontana then, needing to find 8 100ths or 9 100ths with everyone how it stands currently. We're beginning to get towards the end of this session now with 6 minutes remaining. So Eric Chung, another driver, hoping to improve as well, because he currently sits effectively on the second row if it were to all finish now. So Formula Racing, Fabrizio Fontana heading into the Parabolica right about now. Pushing that 296 challenge. The car naturally gravitates to the outside of the track. Then you try and shortcut to the line to minimize, and he's done enough this time. Fabrizio Fontana does go P1, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was a very wide line through Parabolica, but that allowed him to take the speed with him.
Yeah.
Before we watch Eric Chung take the check or the timing line, Ray Acosta, who was P2 yesterday, way out of position, P12 only, and doesn't seem to have found the pace or the space on the track, whatever it is. Someone we have to watch for the remaining 5 minutes or so, as Eric Chung is running. Is that Jan Sandman that he's chasing up? The 186 car.
You're right. You're right. And heading towards the chicane right now. Eric Chung under braking, goes past Jan Sandman. However, shortcuts the chicane. So this lap is had it.
Indeed, and I mean, that's another example where traffic, I mean, both of them were really going, and you can't, I mean, there's nothing really you can do. It may have been that this beginning of the lap has also compromised the lap for Jan Sandman, because he will have to have to respect the track position of Eric. So
Eric now getting track limits, of course, no surprise there.
No, I guess that was obvious.
Shortcutted that chicane. Here is Zoe Scrimpias. I was about to say, Nico, with just under 4 minutes remaining, we've got a number of drivers at this stage in qualifying who we would say are out of position.
Oh, definitely. And again, I mean, Zoe's, he didn't do any racing until last year, so he's almost still a rookie. And he has moved up from Coppa Shell after a really, really strong campaign there. So maybe you wouldn't necessarily expect him at the very front of the standings in the new category, but he has shown the pace, and he's shown it yesterday as well. So P9 certainly not to his liking, P5 much more like it.
Yeah.
Not 100%, but the very likable Greek moves up the order, P5, and as Thomas Costa comes into the pit, he's certainly out of position in P14, and I think that's where what it's gonna be for him.
This is Eric Chung building for this lap that he starts now, because his previous lap was compromised. He is currently P4. Manuela Gosner is sitting P7 at the moment, and I don't think this time is necessarily where she would like it to be. If I may say, Manuela has looked a bit out of sorts relative to what we know she can do.
Yeah, I would agree with that, simply because her standards are so high and she's so quick, was a multi-race winner also last year, so there is no obvious explanation for it, because I mean the team is really, really good, and she is obviously very, very good. So whatever it is, she hasn't quite found pace yet, but we've got 8 events this season and she's plenty of time.
Oh, and that's a car way off there, and I think that's Martial again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carrying just a little bit too much speed out of that chicane, Nico.
Yeah.
Which the lower curbs, forgive me, I keep interrupting you, but the lower curbs allow you to do that now. It's almost like hauling you in, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Christian will want to just be very aggressive in trying to move up the order, and that was just a little bit too much on these occasions. But I mean, he does have the pace. P8 certainly is not indicative of his pace, but he has to show it. He has to put it together. John Dillon only in P9, but he is quick, so that's something that we will watch as we have a look at our provisional pole setter. And you can see how close and how perfect he hits the apex, how close he is to the curb. There is John.
So John Dillon then for Formula Racing, a Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell race winner, and one that you would always expect to see right up there. He's about 3.5 tenths down on P1. However, his P9 is not reflective of the talent that is John Dillon. He is bound to be further up the order than that if he can complete this lap in the same way that he's conducted the first 2 sectors. If the 3rd sector all comes together, it's going to be a big improvement from the driver of car number 151, John Dillon, then rounding Parabolica, and we'll head now towards breaking the timing beam. He is going to be able to go again with another lap should he so desire, but he does go to P3. That's much more where we would expect to see, JD.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. There is Christian Martial. We're only half a minute remaining, and that means I think for Christian this is going to be the last chance. I don't think he will get another one. And where is his intermediate time is not where we'd like it to be. I mean, remarkably, the top 10 are within 1 second, and Jan Sedman is just over a second behind in P11. So you can see how close everybody is, and 1 or 2 mistakes, 1 or 2 track limits means that a potential row 2 start, as Christian dives into the pit lane, means that a row 2 start all of a sudden becomes a row 5 or 6 start, and obviously very, very different conditions for the race. John Dillon, he is currently in row 2, he's going again. So is Manuela, who, as we said, certainly in P8 is not where we would expect her to be.
P12, Ray Acosta, Nico.
It's a game of inches sometimes.
Yeah, so some drivers not where we would expect them to be, which of course, whoa, great save from John Dillon there. Back end of the car just letting go, John able to hold on to it. That will have done for this lap, unfortunately, and thankfully John put in his best time on a previous lap. I don't think he was on an improvement trajectory anyway. As Manuela Gosner, though, she is hopefully going to improve and goes from P8 to P3. So actually relegates John Dillon down to P4. So they'll both be starting on the 2nd row of the grid. But this man has done it again. Fabrizio Fontana is pole once again. Yeah, that's it, confirmation. Look at this. Just catching a bit too much curb. That made the car loose. Brilliant driving there from John Dillon to control that car. And well done to Fabrizio Fontana. It's another pole position. Stefano Guy congratulating him. Great job done. And there's James Wylands, P2. So a front row start for the very experienced racer from Rosso Corsa. And there is Manuela Gosner, who improved to P3 right in the final stages of that qualifying session. It's going to be very interesting, the race to come this afternoon, with drivers perhaps not where we would expect to see them. And there's the 169 car that delivered that pole position with Fabrizio Fontana pedaling it. super slow-mo then of our pole sitter. We will, of course, bring you the full classification momentarily. From that Coppa Shell qualifying. So that's it, qualifying done and dusted for all of our categories of the Ferrari Challenge before we get to racing this afternoon. And here comes that classification then with the backdrop of the Alps. Fabrizio Fontana P1, James Weiland P2. Then it's Manuel Agosner and John Dillon P3 and 4. Christian Kinch and Eric Chung are P5 and P6. And then on the fourth row we'll find Zoe Skrimpias and Oscar Lee Rinchevich. From P8 we go to P9, which is Cristiano Maciel. He'll be doing some overtaking. As to potentially Fons Skeltermar and Jan Sandman, and certainly Ray Acosta, with Michael Martin, Thomas Gosner and Ruslan Sadriv. Rounding out the 15 runners in the Coppa Shell qualifying. From Nico and from myself, thank you for watching qualifying. Please make sure you join us for the races this afternoon. Bye-bye for now.